Here. Just going to talk about my day as a second-year medical student living in Mexico City. Today I had microbiology, and in microbiology we had two practices. One was more theoretical, one was more hands-on. The first one was more the theoretical, it was more like talking about it. The first one was more like explaining like safety, like how we have to behave when we're in the laboratory, like handling the chemicals correctly, because we're going to be dealing with algae, we're going to be dealing with fungos, we're going to be dealing with bacteria, like the safety, basically safety, general safety techniques to that, how the laboratory is supposed to be run. So no one gets hurt, like general safety. Because we're trying to be doctors. We don't want something bad happening and somebody getting hurt. So we need to have those safety. And then the second one was we got more hands-on. It was more like we can, like after that safety, we were more like hands-on. The second practice was basically us investigating bacteria. There was two groups. There was 7 groups, but it was broken up into 2. It was like there was it was 2 sets, but it was like it was like 2 groups, but they were within the 7 groups, they were split it off. Half of them we're gonna do skin, half we're doing the pharynx, or pharynge, piel's skin, to see what bacteria are in. My group actually had pharynx and pharynge, and yeah, so, and I decided, like, we did the safety regulations. Like, we first washed our hands, like we first disinfected the area, made it sterile, then washed our hands. I washed my hands before, but I did it again. Not a big deal. Extra protection. And yeah, so I actually asked my group if it was okay if I was basically the donator of, for this experiment, and they said, yeah, sure. I'm like, hey, yeah, sure. So I basically was the patient in the sense. In the theoretical sense. And because they were getting the sample from me. And so they basically opened my mouth and they used a Q-tip and then scraped a little bit, and then they got what they needed. And then we actually did our first ever basically staining, the process for staining. Oh, it was so cool. It was so cool. And I will have that memory that mine was the first time I ever did a staining. That I ever did a staining. And it was actually, we did a really good job. And so we used chemicals like saffron, acetona. We used the Bunsen burner. Basically, it was our basically keeping the area sterile. That the air is clean, sterile. It's only my bacteria, not somebody else's, basically, to contaminate. It's decontamination. And it was actually really cool. Like, after we did the process, it was so beautiful seeing what bacteria were in my pharynx, my pharynge. Oh my god, I got to see a cell a bacteria in a cell. In 100x, you need to have oil, because it's basically like how glasses are. It helps with refraction, and because it's so close up, it actually gets distorted and could actually break the slide. Could actually break the slide, and basically your sample goes up the hill. So that's why you have to put the oil, because it focuses it in the form of refraction, but it also gives a barrier. It also gives a protection. It's like kind of like your glasses, kind of like what I'm wearing right now, glasses. They help refract it so I can better see, because I have astigmatism. So, and astigmatism is basically the cornea is defective. It's a genetic condition that your cornea doesn't focus. It doesn't get it to properly refract. So that's why I wear glasses. And yeah, so that's what the oil does for a microscope. And that's why we need it for 100x. And at 100x, I got to see like two big, like there was one colony that was a huge colony of bacteria. They look like streptococcus. Streptococcus are basically like grapes. Streptococcus are like chips. I saw more ones that look like grapes. And then the other side, there was a bacteria that was like a big one that like could have had flagellos, but was encapsulated, was eaten by a cell. And you could see the bacteria that was inside the cell. And it was in the heart-shaped one. There was one that was purplish blue, and then the heart-shaped one was where you could see the bacteria inside the cell, and it was like a red of ursine, like something similar to ursine. And yeah, so that was really, really cool. And actually, ours was so good. My professor, she was so impressed with it. It was such a good quality that she told us, do not clean it. We are keeping it. It is going to be part of, because yours is a great, perfect example of types of bacteria. Like, Dolores, and she told me, Dolores, you have some great microbials hanging out in there. And then, like, she asked if I was sick. Like, I was sick earlier. Like, I was sick in the beginning of like a week before the beginning of school, but I got over it. But I was fine. Like, I'm fine today. Yeah, like, that's why I didn't do the video, because I got a little sick and I didn't have the energy to do it. And yeah. So, like, she asked me, like, have you been eating well, and, like, have you not been skipping meals? And I'm like, no, I've been eating pretty well. And yeah, and it's like, oh, okay. And they came to realize, oh yeah, some people just have higher degree of microbials in the pharynx. But it's like of normal flora is just higher quality, just more than normal. But that's the normal resgo for that person, is just sometimes it goes like that. That's what another doctor, the director of laboratory. He's also a doctor of microbiology as well. But his rank is the director of laboratory. Of the laboratories, basically get them ready, set up, so they can... He's basically administrator for the laboratories. And yeah, no, they both were really impressed, and she told us, and he told us, we're keeping it. It is basically, essentially, I donated myself, a piece of myself to science. That was pretty cool. My bacteria that were living inside me to science, for science. Science rocks. And yeah, that was pretty cool. Then I had physiology, and we talked about propagación. It's basically multiplication. It's like adding, creating. It's very linked to membrane potential, but it's the creating membrane potential. But it's also very linked to QPR. QPR is basically when you're using an electrogram, you're actually trying to look at how the electrical function. You're basically, what makes you be able to move is electricity. You actually have electrical charge inside you, and it's just naturally there. It's just, it helps with movement, helps with speech. Yeah, it gives the responses to how things are supposed to run. And yeah, so, and then in my last class of Biomedica, Informatica too, we did some activities, and I did really well. Like, I was basically, the first game, I beat the team. I beat them pretty good. The second one, I was like really tough and really strong, but I didn't win. But my team didn't win. But I really helped him in that one. And yeah, so later. Bye.